Hi class, so this week in math we are going to learn how to divide fractions. We've already learned how to add fractions, subtract them, and multiply them, but this week we're going to learn our last operation to get you ready for your test at the end of next week. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we get into the steps of how to divide fractions, there's some vocabulary that you need to know in order to understand the process. And that word is reciprocal. The reciprocal is the fraction you get after flipping the numerator and the denominator of the divisor in a fraction division problem. That's a lot of language coming at you, but we'll put it into action in just a moment. Another way to think of the reciprocal is calling it the multiplicative inverse. So we know that addition and subtraction are the inverse operations of each other, and multiplication and division are also the inverse operations of each other. So we use the inverse operation to help us divide fractions. So we end up multiplying a little bit. I'll explain. So for our example, let's say that we had, 1/2 divided by 2/5. And whenever we are finding the reciprocal, we are going to be changing this number right here. So whenever we change that number, our new equation becomes 1/2 times 5/2. And I'll explain on the next slide why it turns into multiplication. So let's go ahead and get started with how we find the answer to a fraction division problem. Okay, so how do we divide? Well, our first step is finding the reciprocal of the second fraction only. Our second step is to multiply the two numerators going across, and our third step is multiplying the two denominators going across. So after you find the reciprocal of that second fraction, you're multiplying like you normally would in a multiplication fraction problem. After you do that, you've got your answer. Be sure to simplify. Let's do an example. Okay, I lied. Before we do an example, I want to give you one more way to think about the fraction division steps. So a way that most students remember it is to keep the first fraction the same, change the operation to multiplication, and then flip the second fraction to find the reciprocal. Okay, so now that I've told you about keep, change, flip, we're going to put it into action with an example. So our example from the first slide was 1/2 divided by 2/5. So we keep, let me change my color. We keep this 1/2 the same. We change this division symbol to multiplication, and then we flip the 2 and the 5. So I'm going to rewrite that so it's not as sloppy. So whenever we keep, change, flip, it goes keep, change, division to multiplication, and then flip. 2/5 becomes 5/2, or you can say 5/2. And then we multiply across like normal. So whenever I multiply 1 times 5, I get 5. And then 2 times 2 is 4. And this is an improper fraction. If your teacher is asking you to find it in a mixed number, you need to think about this fraction as a division problem. So instead of 5/4, you think about it like 5 divided by 4. And I'm going to do my long division so I can do my J method. So 4 goes into 5 one time. I subtract, I get 1 left over, and I can't put 4 into 1 unless I want to do decimals, and you guys aren't going to be doing that until the end of 5th grade into 6th grade. So we do the J method, which gives me 1 and 1/4. So my final answer for 1/2 divided by 2/5 is 1 and 1/4. So as a recap, this is how you divide fractions. You keep the first fraction the same, you change the operation to multiplication, and then you flip the second fraction to find the reciprocal. you have any questions, contact me or your teacher, and we'd be happy to help you.